now that Phoenix has national, was taking their licks. It's by far the Clippers, though. Now, albeit without Kristaps Porzingis and that injury he suffered, though, get over the playoff hump. You're able to knock them. Oh my goodness, here we go again. And I think you need your best guy out there again. With Jazz upper brass for this because of COVID, covering up his eye after he's a home. That, guys, is the great 25 years. Finally, for one game. But Ja Morant is the truth. I am telling you, fellas. Back in the saddle again, folks, after as mentioned that 130, 140, 150, 160 day time away from MI6. We are grateful, folks, to be back with you here and back talking sports on your Tuesday nights and inside of the MI6 Sports Network. Welcome in, folks, to the Sports Lounge, talking all things sports from the local and national level, and plenty of other great things going on here, folks, on the MI6 Sports Network. As usual, yours truly, Callan McClurg, back with you here inside of the home studios in San Diego. Hopefully, you folks had a tremendous Tuesday evening. Sorry we had to push the show back to the top of the hour as opposed to 8 o'clock in the evening, but just some stuff having to be taken care of here at the house on this Tuesday evening, and it's also June 1st, 2021. Of course, folks, here with you for the next hour and a half up until 10:30 this evening on this Tuesday night. As usual, folks, fire away with your questions, your comments, or your concerns throughout the course of our program tonight. We'll do our absolute best to make sure that your thoughts are read and heard live on the air as our time goes on here this evening. But again, folks, as a reminder, find us across your favorite social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, follow us as well via your podcast app. Again, all of our podcast episodes are posted via the Anchor podcast app. Find us via Apple, Spotify, you name it. And of course, as well, folks, we invite you to check out our great friends too over at the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. Find them on the web by searching Coast to Coast Entertainment on your favorite social media platforms. As you folks may have known, but myself and Isaiah Leung were over watching, or actually we're helping out with a couple of our great guys from Coast to Coast today, talking some baseball on our program over on C2C earlier on Tuesday. And also, folks, as a reminder as well, but coming up 2 weeks from tonight, again, folks, Haley Skamura from the USA Women's National Team will join us at 8 o'clock p.m. Again, Haley will drop by and give us her perspective on her career. Of course, her dad, Peter, playing for the Washington Capitals back in the day. And, of course, talk about her career playing through college, the pros, and obviously her time right now playing with Team USA and also with the PWHPA, trying their best to get a sustainable league for all women's hockey players. That'll come up again, folks, in 2 weeks' time, coming up, as mentioned, on June 15th, right here on the MI6 Sports Network, and of course, via your podcast app and also via the MI6 YouTube channel, which again, folks, go and subscribe to that as well. As you may know, again, we've been putting out some small clips or some short clips from each program. We're doing our best to do that. We'll have some, of course, here from our episode here tonight and plenty more great things. And again, as we've also said, though, but be sure you folks check out our friends as well over at the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. Again, Jason, Adam, Sarge, and the cast and crew over there doing wonderful things with their programming. And again, you'll be seeing plenty of us, plenty of intertwining going on between our network and their network and stuff like that. And plenty more great things as this partnership does, in fact, begin between Coast to Coast and the MI6 Sports Network. So again, folks, go and check out our great friends again over at Coast to Coast. And again, also help spread the word about our platform as well. And again, we'll have plenty about that. And of course, we'll keep you posted as well when, in fact, we do, in fact, do those crossover episodes as time does, in fact, move on. With that, folks, we'll dive into our sports coverage and go into our first segment. It's time now to open up a tab. I want to start tonight, folks, on the opening tab segment here, talking about probably one of the hottest sports topics right now going on in the world of sports. That, of course, folks, is the very somewhat surprising, somewhat stunning, and perhaps somewhat shocking news, though, of Naomi Osaka electing to withdraw from the French Open, citing her current mental health state right now. And, of course, this has drawn, I think, the spotlight in both a great way and perhaps a bad way in some people's minds, though. But however, though, folks, many Grand Slam tennis leaders are now, in fact, urging the French Open to address her concerns And also, they pledged to address Naomi Osaka's concerns about the players' mental health and mental well-being. The leaders of all 4 Grand Slam tennis tournaments reacted on Tuesday to Naomi Osaka's stunning withdrawal from the French Open by promising to address all players' concerns about mental health. The pledges come in light and via a statement signed by the same 4 administrators who threatened the possibility of disqualification or even suspending Naomi on Sunday if she continued to skip out on mandatory media availability. The 4-time major champion and number 2 ranked player was fined $15,000 when she elected not to speak to reporters after her first round victory at Roland Garros on Sunday. The next day, Osaka elected to pull out of the tournament entirely, saying on social media via a note that she experiences high waves of anxiety before meeting with the media and revealing she has suffered long bouts of depression, signing as early as the 2018 U.S. Open. The 23-year-old who was born in Japan and moved to the U.S. with her family at age 3 said she would, quote-unquote, take some time away from the court now, but when the time is right, I really want to work with the tour to discuss ways we can make things better for the players, the press, and for the fans, close quote. Tennis players are required to attend news conferences if requested to do so. Grand Slam rules, though, do apply or allow for fines up to $20,000 if they are a no-show to those media availability sessions. Part of Tuesday's statement from those in charge of the French Open, Wimbledon, the U.S. Open, and the Australian Open said in part, quote, unquote, on behalf of the Grand Slams, we wish to offer Naomi Osaka our support and assistance in any possible way as she takes time away from the court. She is an exceptional athlete, and we look forward to her return as soon as she deems appropriate. Mental health is a very challenging issue which deserves our utmost attention. It is both complex and personal, as what affects one individual does not necessarily affect another. We commend Naomi for sharing in her own words the pressures and anxieties she is feeling, and we also empathize with the unique pressures tennis players may face, close quote. Via a separate statement issued on Tuesday to the AP via email, International Tennis Federation official Heather Boyler said that the sport is, quote unquote, reviewing what needs to evolve after Naomi shone a light on mental health issues, close quote. Also, various players, including Serena Williams, offered support for Osaka and praised her for being forthcoming in her statement via social media on Tuesday. Plenty of other folks have also chimed in on this as well, including Gail Monfils at 34, who also won on Tuesday in Paris, said he could relate to Osaka's concerns to an extent. He was also quoted as giving his thoughts as well. Per ESPN sources, the Women's Tennis Association told ESPN it cannot comment on the situation, but it did state, though, that it has provided staff dedicated to the mental health of WTA athletes for more than 20 years, including a mental health care provider in person at tournaments and telehealth sessions between tournaments upon requests. Folks, I believe this is a bit of a slippery slope here. And it's not because of Naomi Osaka withdrawing from this tournament. It is in wake, though, folks, of what has become a very dire situation, along with, other things that have been haunting and have been grabbing at people throughout not just the pandemic, but pre-COVID times, though, of anxiety, depression. Maybe they're not comfortable with public speaking. They have some stuff like that. And I really wish, though, and I know that teams do their best to somewhat, I know that I read in the media guides with certain teams that, we have a 15-minute, 30-minute mandatory cool-down period following a game. So, we're not going to open up the locker rooms right away when the match is over, the game's over. But I think, though, folks, especially nowadays, where mental health for a long time was never talked about. It was never talked about, never was talked about, never, you would never touch it, basically. But I think with the growing number of athletes, men, women, across the board with athletes, that they are making their mental health a major, major talking point. And folks, I can relate to this on a personal level myself. I'm sure you folks have know about this, maybe not, though. And I kept this private for a majority of my life. Only a small number of people knew this. But throughout the course of my lifetime, I never told anybody, except for those that knew me well, other than my folks and some close friends, that I myself had mental problems, some small mental hurdles in my lifetime, barring this thing called hidden vision. I invite you to, again, go and check it out, called Hidden Vision, where, I wasn't able to really, concentrate during the course of classes at school. I would have to be up front and, very up close in the classroom. And I would have to, basically I would have trouble going from writing something down from the whiteboard back down to the paper. And math is not my forte. And I would have, hissy fits. I would, pull the hair out of my scalp. I'd be so frustrated, and it would take a toll on on me mentally, because I could never get stuff right. I could never write stuff down the right way. I would lose my place when reading, as I do. And I never opened up to people about that. And I thought, that this burden kind of was on my back, and I wanted to finally get over it. But in this case here, though, folks, is I know for a fact in my 12 years in sports media, I have a job to do, though. At the same time, though, there's certain topics and questions you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole in the industry. I don't want to sound like I'm the guy that knows everything. I'm just, throwing it out there to you folks. And then I see, though, why athletes have some problems sometimes with certain outlets, certain writers, certain broadcasters, or certain, or just certain, things in general, because we know that sometimes that those headlines can be, wrung out like a washcloth and perhaps, taken the wrong way, though. But even though that Naomi Osaka is saying, I need a break from this, I don't see how you can't support an athlete for saying, I can't do this right now. I mean, I know, of course, that there's money, they have endorsements and stuff like this. And, I've been reading some of the stuff back and forth, though. But I think that there's been a very great outpouring of positive support for Naomi Osaka, with this move, though. And I get the fact, though, that the NFL fines players for not talking to the media during the Super Bowl week. Michael Jordan was always fined for not talking to the media during the All-Star Game festivities, and that tennis tournaments are also, for me, it seems, though, I don't want to make this all about the tennis media, but that the tennis media to me has been a very, very, rough, tough, and gruff group of people to work with in regards to how, in fact, that, Serena's had her issues, her sister's had her issues, Nadal's had issues, I'm sure Federer's had issues, Djokovic, that all the big names have had maybe their spats with tennis media. But I think, though, it's kind of maybe magnified a little bit, though, with this being the French Open and with this being, one of the Grand Slam tournaments, though. But I think, though, folks, that as we have seen, though, so, I think recently, and I know that ESPN did a great job highlighting Mental Health Awareness Month, though, back in May, literally, last month. And I think, though, that we have seen, though, folks, a great number of athletes do an amazing job of saying, hey, I'm just like you. I'm vulnerable. I suffer from depression, anxiety. I'm ADHD. I have this going on, that going on. And I think, though, in a time and place, though, folks, where we as a society may not see eye to eye on certain subjects, though, I believe, though, that whenever some of this stuff comes out, though, a lot of people don't stoop to that low level of, I'm going to say this, in wake of what happened with Dak Prescott. Saying your mental health is not the best does not make you weak, does not make you inhuman, does not make you, less than the common man, does not make you soft, does not make you weak, does not make you look like you should be frowned upon and kicked to the curb. That more so it should open up people's eyes, and maybe people can do some soul searching like, wow, I went through a bad breakup, 2 years ago. Wow, I could have heard this, advice maybe, back then as opposed to now, though. I think it's a great step forward, though. And I think that more needs to be done, though. I still think, though, that there needs to be more done, though, much like what I believe I saw via a tweet from a producer of ESPN who said, I'm a part of the media. I get that we want to give fans, that access to, the access to the viewers and that inside analysis in those interviews, though. But why do we always forget that athletes are human just like we are? And I think, though, folks, that Naomi Osaka, I think, is taking a major step forward in a positive way for her career. I'm sure, of course, she'd love to be competing, though. But again, some people just aren't comfortable speaking in front of an audience. I think if I have a great example for you folks, Ted Leitner, longtime Padre broadcaster who retired before the season began, though. Ted once told Fox Sports San Diego, now Bally Sports San Diego, when he was in elementary school or in school, and they had to give a public or an oral report to the class, Ted would count the number of seats before they got to him, or if they're going alphabetically, and then he'd cut school because he was so afraid. I'm sure a lot of you out there are the same way, though, that you probably don't like getting in front of an audience or that mentally, just like what Naomi said, it's a hard thing to do. And then Ted said after that had basically gone on, though, that when he started doing it, he obviously enjoyed doing it when he began announcing games, though. And that he also said, though, and I think it's true, though, that more people, I think, fear public speaking more than they actually fear death. And there's the old Jerry Seinfeld line, though. So you mean to tell me you'd rather be in the coffin than give the eulogy? So I think, though, folks, give me your thoughts here. I really want to hear your thoughts on this matter at hand. Again, folks, Naomi Osaka withdrawing from the French Open, again, citing her mental health in wake, though, of that $15,000 fine issued by the French Open and by the board due to the fact of her skipping out on the availability for the media. And I think, though, folks, that this has been a very great rallying cry for a majority of the for majority of I think the tennis world, but also I think other athletes who have reached out to Naomi or said their piece. I think Kevin Love, folks, is the other guy or player, I think, in sports who has been so open about his mental health. It's beyond amazing seeing people say, to kind of get to that personal level, because I know that fans have their thoughts about, athletes and about professional sports right now, but they want to show that they are vulnerable, just like you and me, to certain things. But again, folks, love to hear your thoughts on that as our program does, in fact, go on with our show here tonight. Over to the comment box first, I want to check in with my good guy, Isaiah Young, who says, Cal, Devin Booker is a bad, bad man. Anybody that still does not believe he's a top 10 player, I don't know what to tell you. He also says that he is super excited for the MI6 and Coast to Coast partnership. Definitely agree on that as well. Again, nice to be able to jump on today with Big B, Sarge, and with Chris today to talk some baseball with Isaiah and myself, and also a warm welcome to the birthday boy. A good evening to Casey King. Case, happy birthday, my good guy. Hope to see you sometime soon, as in fact, sports come back very, very shortly. But again, folks, once more, again, give me your thoughts here again on the matter at hand. Your overall stance, again, more so, maybe about player and media relations in regards to Naomi Osaka electing to skip out of the French Open after winning her first round match, but again, citing her mental health and also being fined $15,000 for skipping out on that on the media availability for the French Open. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that, folks, as our program does in fact move on here tonight. Some tough injury news for both the Padres and the St. Louis Cardinals, but first it is the Cardinals, who has had a bit of a rough stretch here with Jack Flaherty, one of their ace pitchers in the rotation, sent to the IL with a oblique strain, suffered at the plate nonetheless against the Dodgers on Monday night. But the Cardinals on Tuesday have placed right-hand pitcher Jack Flaherty on a 10-day IL with a left oblique strain that manager Mike Schultz termed a re-strain / a tear, as he was reevaluated after leaving Monday's ball game with tightness on the right side, or on that side. On the left, I should say, excuse me. And he also hinted it would, in fact, be a precautionary move after the Dodgers' victory 9 over the Cardinals on Monday. Despite the exit early, Flaherty equaled his season high with 9 strikeouts and walked 1. The right-hander also gave up 2 runs and 2 hits against his favorite team while growing up in nearby Burbank, California. Schultz also said as well that originally concurred with his pitcher, saying in his post-game availability on Monday that the decision was made more to just be safe and get it checked out. It turns out it was a bit more than that at this rate, and it's a normal situation. But Flaherty, again, apparently hurt himself, though, swinging the bat during that AB on Monday night against the Dodgers up there at Dodger Stadium. You know, folks, I believe that this right here, sadly for me as a National League Baseball fan, is basically, this is, I think, the cries to bring the DH to the National League full-time, though, with Jack Flaherty hurting himself at the plate, swinging the bat. Now, yes, Andrew Heaney of the Angels had a base hit in the Tuesday night game for the Angels versus the Giants. But, folks, I do believe, though, it's becoming inevitable as more time goes on, though, and as this year finally does, in fact, end, that pitchers are not going to be hitting anymore, in my mind, in baseball. Though I hate to say that as a National League Baseball fan, though, but with the uptick of injuries with pitchers, the uptick with guys being hurt, or pitchers being hurt, though, at the plate, or more so just guys standing there taking strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. 2020, I think, was like the huge, big step forward for the universal DH to come to fruition, I truly believe. And I think that this year, while it couldn't be agreed upon, though, that's going to probably be, in my mind, folks, the really big deal breaker. In my mind, honestly, that will be the deal breaker for whether or not we get a baseball season next year, is if the National League, after 150 plus years of playing baseball, will finally cave. They caved for 1 year because of it being part of that 60-game sprint, though. But will the National League, the old guard, the senior circuit of Major League Baseball, finally cave in to the junior circuit and cave into the AL and just say, you know what? We got to play this like college baseball. We got to have a DH rule in place. I believe if there's no universal DH, I don't count on there being a baseball season next year, because I think that especially folks with Trevor Bauer kind of being the guy leading the charge for the Players Association right now, him and Max Scherzer, here, two of the biggest bona fide pitchers in the game are the two guys I believe in charge in the Major League Baseball Players Association. There is no way in my mind that those two guys, I think a lot of the other players would agree, though, they're probably going to say, look, in offseason meetings, look, if there's no DH, we're not going to play. I mean, I don't know how you folks as baseball fans feel out there, but I don't see, though, that they're going to have to probably scratch and claw and pull some teeth to get the DH rule full time in the National Leagues. I think that some fans, fans like myself probably are saying, you know what, it's not real baseball. Keep the pitcher in the 9th spot or keep him in the lineup. I mean, I, for one, have, I think this is probably the more, not really controversial, but I think more of like you get like a fair balance of people who are for the DH being in baseball universally, and those like myself who are, old school in a way of, keep the game like it is. I know, of course, I advocate, though, for guys to show the emotion and, stuff like that and celebrate and show off the swag. But I think, though, as more time goes on, though, I don't think that to me, though, it seems to me that the National League is not going to cave. And I really think, though, that Rob Manfred may have to put his foot down. Perhaps, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, though. But, folks, give me your thoughts here. Is it inevitable that the 2022 baseball season will basically, in your mind, solely hinge on baseball going the route of the universal DH? I think there's more pressing issues than just the DH rule right now. I don't want to keep this runner on second base rule for the rest of my time watching regular season baseball. Yeah, I get it about, it's still somewhat of a, post-COVID world, though. But, Rob Manfred can only use the pace of play excuse so many times in the course of a season. I get, I'm totally for the entire, pace of play thing. But at the same time, though, baseball has got to stop watering down the product. That is why it's not because of the old guard saying, get off my lawn, don't celebrate. It's about the true diehard baseball fans, like me, like Casey, like James, like Adam, like Isaiah. We can go to a ball game, folks, enjoy food, have some beer, and sit there and sit through a 2-hour game, a 3-hour game, a 4.5-hour game, or a 22-inning marathon, and still be thoroughly invested in that ball game. I get the fact, though, that a lot of the younger viewers out there in the demographics are saying, oh my goodness, baseball games are too long. You are losing, the 18 to 25-year-olds. You're losing the high school kids. You're losing the elementary school kids. You're losing the college kids who just want to go and drink and have fun. I'm aware of that. But we don't have to water down the game to make baseball go faster or to make baseball applicable or make baseball feasible. That's why there's football, there's basketball, there's soccer, there's hockey, there's lacrosse, there's other sports out there. But I think that, especially though in a game like baseball where there's no time limit, it's 9 innings. It could go an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2:30, 3 hours, 3.5, 4, 5, 6, 8 hours for all that I care. You got to play till the game's actually over, and I get the fact, though, as I've said, though, about, maybe that the viewership's down because of the All-Star game controversy, snafu this year with Atlanta and then Denver. The games are too long and stuff like that, though. But if anything is apparent here, folks, this might be the one that I say has got to go. You got to regulate the shift. It's either one time per inning you shift, or you just say, you got to play regular defense. If guys find hits or if they hit the ball through the hole, that's a base hit. I was watching the Angel Giant game on Tuesday night on MLB Network. It was the Clubhouse edition with like Steven Nelson, Mark DeRosa, CC Sabathia. And CC had a great point, though. I believe it was, I want to say it was Posey or someone on the Giants hit a scolding ground ball through the right side. But yet the Angels second baseman, David Fletcher, is halfway between the right fielder and the frickin' end of the infield dirt, making the grab and throwing him out at first base for an out. And CC said very well, I think, though. He said it very best, though. That's a base hit. That's the only thing I think that baseball's got to clamp down on. You can't be shifting and doing all this stuff. That's what I think, though, folks, is driving people away. It's not the pace. It's not pace of play. It's the fact that we literally can park every one of our infielders on the right side of the plate against Eric Hosmer, and he grounds out because he always goes that way. But you have all 5 of your guys over there because guys don't either pull the ball or they don't go the other way. I get that. But that's where I think, though, is where the viewership goes down because it's a surefire base hit, yeah. But no, you've got 2 guys on that side, though. I mean, I, for one, know it benefits both teams. It benefits the Padres every so often. It benefits the Cubs or the Dodgers or the Braves or the A's. But that's what I think more so is killing baseball. It's not about, the pace of play. It's not about games being too long or stuff like that. I just don't buy the shift narrative. You can probably pinch the middle on a double play ball, perhaps, or stuff like that. But you don't put guys like it's softball and you're having a rover out there playing beer league softball at a local sports complex. It's not what baseball is supposed to be. That's what I think is further watering down the game. It's not the pace of play. What's watering down the ball game is all these shifts. I get that they're used because of, oh my goodness, the iPad says, that Machado's hitting everything to the right side, or oh my goodness, Callan's hitting every ball to the left side. I mean, I totally get that, but you got to play defense still. You can't just make it so easy, to get guys out. I mean, I know it's all that's all in the game's DNA, though, but not nowadays. Again, folks, give me your thoughts here once more. But again, Jack Flaherty, not to get sidetracked, though, Jack Flaherty placed on the IL with the Cardinals due to, again, a suffered oblique strain at the hands of being at the plate per National League rules and stuff of that nature. Plenty of thoughts real quick, rolling in still at this rate and at this point in time. Casey further adds on that, man, the Lakers have gone Higgins mode without Anthony Davis. LeBron can't win without him, and vice versa. It is not looking good for the Lakers as they are getting absolutely clobbered at Phoenix Suns Arena in PHX. James Gonzalez writes and he says, Cal, good evening, buddy, but also you have to do your job as an athlete. You can suffer the consequences if not, but hopefully everyone can see she is not comfortable. And I think, though, James, that's why I think now, of course, once she leaves the tournament, now we'll change our policy. This reminds me so much, James, of our good man Isaiah Leung changing the playoff rules for our fantasy football this year to let him get in because he was not going to make the playoffs this year. I mean, I don't get that. Once someone leaves, though, or once this happens, now you change the rules? No, thanks. I mean, I get that they're not comfortable, but I mean, maybe perhaps if she could have pulled off a Marshawn Lynch, I'm just here so I don't get fined, that may have perhaps been better. But again, I get where she's coming from, though. I know you have to do your job as a pro, though, athlete or as a media member. But if they're not comfortable, I say you don't do it. I mean, that may be soft or ludicrous in your mind, though. But I just really think, though, if this goes back, though, James, to that old antidote of let your game do the talking. That's what I think more so is what Naomi did before the whole fun and the whole thing happened, though, was, I don't need to talk to you guys. Watch my game. Let that speak for you. And you can write that and take that to the bank, as my man Dave Fizdale would say. And James also says, Cal, they've got to use, they need that universal DH ASAP. They definitely need to. And I think that more so, James, that it's coming to light now. And I think it's going to come to light a bit more, though I've denied it for a long time, sadly, because, it's part of the game. AL guys have got to go in and hit. But I think, though, with the concerns, though, of pitchers being hurt, though, because of a Flaherty situation, I think it was Adam Wainwright who I think either fractured his leg or did some major damage because he fouled the ball off his foot, I think, and I think it was his plant foot. That's what I think can happen for Major League Baseball in my mind. Casey King also says, Cal, I believe we're going to be getting a lockout. Manfred is a problem, and way negotiations went during the pandemic. I see this becoming a very ugly situation. I cannot agree more, Case. This has probably been the rockiest time for baseball. Probably, I'd say, I don't know, Case. I wasn't alive. I was barely 3 months old, I think, when baseball had the last strike in '94. I don't know if it'll be worse than '94, but it could be pretty close. Because I think that the DH rule has a lot of weight. It's probably going to be the most heated debate topic when, in fact, that the labor unions do, in fact, meet. My good man, Adam Barber from Coast to Coast, writes and he says, Callan, I'm a Braves fan, and I love the DH rule. It needs to be the same in both leagues. I think, Adam, it's inevitable, but again, will these National League ball clubs, for example, like the Braves, who've been around for 150 plus years, will they finally cave? They caved for 1 year, but will they cave for a second time, though? It's like the whole, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. I don't see this going through. I don't think that franchises like the Braves, like the Cubs, like the Dodgers, the Giants, the teams who've been around for forever, especially the Reds who've been around since 1876 when baseball first started for playing Major League Baseball. I don't see this being. I see this being a deal breaker. I don't see this coming to pass at this rate. So we'll see how things go. But Adam, I agree though. I'm leaning more that way, but I still just don't see it coming to fruition, my man. I think it's still going to remain the same, though, at this rate. Casey also says, I hate the DH, but I could accept it. But please, no more 7-inning doubleheaders and no second base rule. Both are stupid. Casey, I'm going to slightly disagree with you about the doubleheaders. Something in my mind has been brewing all season that doubleheaders will become a part of the schedule, perhaps, to make up that lost in-stadium revenue. Because let me remind you, folks, that the Padres play the Angels in late August. Friday and Saturday, there's an off day on Sunday. For some reason, that weekend has kind of barked at me that they're going to go back to the schedule, for example, 1998, where the Padres, I believe back then, played doubleheaders every so often each month. They played one doubleheader every month with a certain opponent. That was also, again, though, back at the time, though, where teams would go and play the other league opponents twice. They would go to Chicago twice, New York twice. They'd make those two trips out further away from the division 2 times each year. But I believe that doubleheaders become a thing pretty soon, though. But to make up the lost ground with the revenue that's been lost because of attendance, I personally like the 7-inning doubleheaders because I know it's not, a full-blown 9, but it adds a bit of drama because you don't have those 2 extra, you don't have innings 8 and 9 to come back. You got to get it done, innings 4, 5, and 6, and then into the 7th. So it kind of adds a bit of intrigue. Though I hate the runner on second base rule as well, my man, that adds a bit of intrigue, though, but again, it's not the best. And Adam, I think, has a great point here. After the 12th inning is when you should go and add the runner on second base. I like that idea a lot better. Play inning 10 and 11 all the way through and then go the runner on second base, maybe even after the 13th perhaps or whatever. And Casey says that also says that Rob Manfred needs to go. He is the worst commissioner of all 4 major sports. I would also throw in MLS and the WNBA with 6 of them. He's below everybody else. I mean, he makes Gary Bettman look like he's the best guy out there. And of course, Gary did a great job though with the bubble last year for the NHL. And Adam also says, but yet though, Callan, fans can watch a 4-overtime NBA game. Because, Adam, there's a clock in basketball. There's no clock in baseball. Adam says, Cal, I will disagree with you. I used to play shortstop and I loved the shift. Adam, I played second, I played short, I played first. We never did the drastic shifts of playing, putting you in left field or me right behind the second base bag, though. So I don't buy the whole thing, though. I know I get it, but no, I'm not a fan though of it because I think though if you really want to moan and whine about viewership for baseball going down, the reason being is the shift. It's not because the games are 3.5 hours long. James, I agree with you, buddy, that the pros need to learn though how to beat the shifts. I get that, but James, at the same time though, when you have former players like CeCe Sabathia and Gary Sheffield either not watching baseball or they're criticizing the shift, there's problems on your hands here. I know that things won't change, though, but one could at least hope for the best, though. James further adds on, tennis is one of those games, though, where you can't break its traditional rules just like golf. I mean, golf and tennis are 2 of the ones that hang on a tradition so much. I agree with you, James, a lot. James further adds on, I'm cherishing this season because I'm weary of next season happening, and also that MLB has to keep innovating its game. I mean, you can only market your stars so much. I know that Rob Manfred is, that's probably, that I think though, James, has been the main issue I have though with baseball is still all this bias on national TV. I need to rant a little bit here about this. The San Diego Padres, who I have called, beyond me living in San Diego and being a Padre fan, the Padres are the most exciting team in baseball, whether you like it or not, folks. They get 2 games on national television. I know about FS1, I know about MLB Network, but 2 games. 2 games on Fox and ESPN. And they both came and went in April and May. I know they have another game coming up in June. 3 games with probably the face of baseball. I know he got hurt tonight, but 3 games with the most exciting, most fun team in Major League Baseball. They get 3 games on national TV. I know they're competing against the Dodgers and the Angels and the Giants and the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Cubs and the White Sox. But that's where my gripe is more so, is that if we want the game to grow, James, and to innovate it, you have got to give these star players airtime, like a Juan Soto, like a Mercedes, like a Tatis Jr. Them just shoving them to MLB Network or to FS1 or to, whatever, to ESPN Plus. That's not helping growing the game. That's not reinventing or re-innovating the game, though. You've got to get the faces of baseball, whether people like these guys or not, onto the national stage, on ESPN, on Fox, or on FS1. That's where more so the gripe for me is, though, and that, Rob Manfred and that baseball's got to do a better job of getting these guys airtime, especially, though, when you have the Padres, Giants, and Dodgers, all 3 teams right now, a half game or a game within each other right now. How do you not put the Padres on, on national TV? And again, folks, this is not biased with me saying this, though, but I think if you are a casual baseball fan out there, casual fan out there, maybe a borderline baseball fan, and you've heard about Fernando Tatis Jr., but you don't live in San Diego, how are you supposed to know, though, about what this kid's all about, though, when he can't watch him play on national TV because, we got to put the Yankees on. We got to put the Red Sox on. We've got to put the Cubs on. We got to put the Dodgers on. Got to put the Giants on. I don't get this narrative, though, of the star players like Tatis Jr., like Moncada, like Mercedes, like Juan Soto. Why are these guys not being shown on national TV? That's more so the gripe for me at this rate and at this point in time, though. James also says that I love the 7-inning doubleheaders. I think, James, it goes back to my point, though, as well, though, that maybe that doubleheaders become a scheduling thing. I think as well, though, that maybe even next season, that they're going to be used, though, as safety nets, though, especially in April, May, October, maybe, or even September, because of the weather, that maybe doubleheaders become part of the schedule just because of the weather back east in April and in parts of May, even in June with some rain still going on. So we'll see how things go. James further adds on, Tony Gwynn Sr. would have loved beating the shift. I even think, James, if they even did that nowadays, he'd still find a way to get on base, regardless of what happens. And James further adds on, man, oh man, ESPN was drooling over Yadier Molina in that Sunday night game versus the Padres. James, they did the same damn thing, though, in the playoffs last year. And who won the series? Sorry. Adam also says, yet they put the Pirates and Orioles on ESPN. I believe, though, Adam, it was the Pirates and Royals they put on Wednesday night on baseball last night, though. Again, I don't get it, Adam. I mean, I know that the Braves, I love when the Braves come on, though, because the Braves and Padres, to me, are similar. They're 2 very stud players, or stud teams, though, with Swanson, Acuna Jr. I think you and I share the same sentiments, though, AB, that I'd love to see the Braves. I love when the Braves come on because I can watch those guys play, though. But I do believe, though, Adam, that you'd like to see the Padres play more often on national TV because I think that you're that much like other baseball fans. You probably stop doing what you're doing to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. take his at-bats and what he does, though, and what he might do next, though. So I think you and I share the same sentiments, though. Again, I don't get that matchup right there. Baltimore and stuff like that and things of that caliber. But I don't get it. I really don't get it. James also says, I miss having the 1 o'clock p.m. Fox Saturday games and league being showcased. Where I think more so, James, I don't know about this. James, has it seemed to you more so that mainly ever since the Angels signed that 20-year contract with Fox, when they signed Albert Pujols, that certain teams who have a Fox, now a Bally Sports affiliate, seem to get more airtime on Fox, on KT, on Fox 11 or on Fox 5 or on your Fox provider. Let me know, folks. I kind of feel like, though, that if teams have had renewed contracts with Fox, with regular Fox, not Bally Sports and the RSNs, that it kind of seems like, though, they kind of get on Fox a bit more often than they probably should. Again, I don't know how to feel about that, but who knows what it is. James says, well, at least, though, that MLB.TV has its highest viewership ever, so that's positive. I still, though, James, have said this, though. Sports has got to get rid of these ludicrous and stupid blackout rules. James, there is no telling, my man, how many times I'd love to watch the Angels play a game on Bally Sports West when the Padres are off, but yet because of how the contracts work, and oh my goodness, you live in San Diego, yeah, you can watch the Ducks and Clippers, but you can't watch the Angel games. I get that, I get that the exclusivity of the RSNs, though. But come on now. I'd like to watch the Angels, and listen to Darren Sutton or Matty V and Mark Gubiza and Jose Mota and the cast and crew on Bally Sports West. But that's the thing, though, I think that kills sports, though, is these blackout rules. There's no telling, for my women's basketball fans out there who know the struggle here, there's no telling how difficult it is to watch WNBA games via the WNBA League Pass app, because you could be living in San Diego, like I do, and, you want to watch the Sparks play or watch the Mercury or the Aces play, but because you live in Southern California, you're blacked out on Bally Sports Arizona and even on the station in Vegas, though. So, again, I think that blackout rules have got to go, so we'll see how things happen. Adam also says, but the Parts have a young player in Adam Frazier that bats leadoff. That looks promising. True point there as well. Casey further adds on, Callan, I miss the old days of Saturday night NBC games with a 10 a.m. game and a 1 p.m. game, and I missed the ABC Monday night game of the week as well. Much better coverage. Sorry, sadly, Case, that was far beyond my time, so I really can't speak for that, though, about ABC and NBC. Casey further adds on that I hate this, that Fox has these 4 o'clock start times. I agree with that. I think when the Dodgers played in Houston, that was horrible. I mean, just watching that game when they were in Houston, and he literally had the sun setting in left field directly in the eyes of Max Muncy at the plate. That's a hazard right there. I mean, you can say what you want, folks, about that. You're a pro, get over it. But I mean, these start times are not, that Saturday start time is not very ideal in that time frame. And James also says, I've been watching the White Sox more than ever because of their talent and their TV crew. Jason Bietti, I believe, is calling games now on NBC Sports Chicago. James says that, Callan, a quick heads up. The Angels have not been on Fox 11 much. It's always the Yanks, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, and the Cubbies. And he says that, yes, the blackout rules have got to go. I definitely agree with that at this point in time. Because, again, that's what I believe, folks, is what is further hurting baseball, is that you have all these ludicrous rules in place about what you can, in fact, have and what you can and can't watch. James also says, I hate the 4 p.m. starts, too, with the shadows still hanging over the infield. And definitely, I think, for Padre games, it gets really bad. The 1 o'clock game times that are played, I still like 12:40 for a game time because you don't have the shadows fully engulfing the infield yet at Petco. But again, I don't get the logic behind those 4 o'clock start times. I know, of course, it's about the entire, the ratings and stuff like that, but I again, don't buy it. Some other small injury news, folks. The Padres announced today that Fernando Tatis Jr. Was pulled from tonight's game versus the Cubs after experiencing some tightness around his midsection. Padres manager Jace Tingler said that his exit was more of a precautionary thing than anything else. Folks, my dad said it better tonight, though, about this, is that you kind of hope and pray, though, that this kid is not injury prone. And so far, it's kind of been that way a bit. He had the injured hand in Double-A San Antonio when he was just coming up through the minors. He had a shoulder issue. He had the hamstring and the quad issues. And then, of course, he has the COVID scare. Plus, of course, now with this being the oblique issue. People could, I do have to say this, folks. The Padres, in my mind, have been extremely cautious over the course of this season. I have to give them a lot of props, though, because they know that they're in for a long haul this year. I think a lot of teams know it's a long haul now this year, and the Padres have not rushed anybody back. I know they have Trent Grisham coming back as early as Friday. They held Manny Machado out for a couple days because of his nagging shoulder, and now, of course, they're being very, very cautious again with Fernando Tatis Jr. And I think, though, folks, that at this rate, you got to do what you got to do. This is a long haul. It is a marathon. It is a marathon this year, and not a sprint for ball clubs in general this year. But I do think, though, that you kind of hope, though, for what this kid has done, folks. And again, I'm not saying this as with this being bias or with me being a Padre fan, though. But for all the folks out there who are somewhat on the fence about baseball, or who are perhaps a little bit lenient about about the Padres and stuff like that, though, I do think, though, that you are probably concerned, though, anytime you hear that this kid goes out with an injury, because of how much fun this kid is. And I know it's probably not the way to play the game nowadays with with all the antics and stuff, though. But like I have said, though, folks, in a time, though, where baseball is thirsty to get people to come back to the ballpark or tune in on TV or turn on the radio, this is your main reason why to watch. Again, this is not Padre fan bias or San Diego sports fan bias. But what this kid brings, though, locks you in to every plate appearance that he has and stuff like that at this rate. But again, folks, Fernando Tatis Jr. pulled out of today's game with the Padres playing the Cubs. Again, with a precautionary reason due to some potential oblique soreness or midsection tightness suffered in tonight's ball game for the Padres star shortstops at this rate. Casey King further adds on. So, Cal, your thoughts here with major league teams going back to full capacity. Will team announcers be able to finally travel the games again soon? Casey, I hope, because Don Orsillo and Jesse Agler have had a whale of a time trying to call games off these monitors. And I shared my experience with you folks last Tuesday of me calling college basketball games off of a monitor, like a remote broadcast, basically. It's difficult. If you don't have the camera angles are off, maybe a delay between the feed going to you, and you really can't say a lot, but you can hear it, though, in the background. I would hope, though, because we got to get these guys back traveling on the road again, because this is tough. And I think it's been tough, though, for any broadcast team to call these away games on the road and not be able to travel because of the restrictions in place and stuff like that. But I do think, though, Casey, when it's full capacity, that means full capacity in my mind. So I think that in fact, though, we will in fact see announcers back in the booth very, very shortly. Over, folks, now to the NFL. Ben Roethlisberger says that taking the pay cut was necessary to keep the Steelers, to help the Steelers sign top-tier talent. With the disappointment of a first-round exit, of a first-round playoff loss to the Browns still fresh, Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger made the decision right away to return the Steelers quarterback for one more season. To do that, though, he recognized that his $41.25 million cap hit was untenable, and he asked the front office for a pay cut so it could help fill the roster and fill the holes around him. Roethlisberger, at age 39, reduced his salary by $5 million and signed the new contract that is set to void after the 2021 season. But even though, the terms of the deal seem to set a expiration on his tenure as the quarterback, Roethlisberger wasn't willing to speculate on his future at his press conference. Folks, I do believe, though, that this was smart. And I know, of course, that at this rate, though, that Pittsburgh, I know, was sort of a fluke last season. They had this 11-0 start, though, and then they came apart, though, at the worst possible time, losing those games and, of course, ultimately falling to the Browns, though, in very convincing fashion, too. And they lose that game, though, on their home field, though. That I think it's time, though, that the Steelers begin looking that way towards the future in regards to finding that next quarterback. Now, is it going to be Mason Rudolph? Who is it, though? But I think, though, folks, smart move, though, by a savvy veteran quarterback to take that pay cut and say, let's go and kind of get this roster put back to snuff, though. But again, 39 years old, though, the wear and tear of the injuries, though, I really wonder, though, folks, how, in fact, though, that Big Ben can come back, though, from this season. Again, great start, though. But will Pittsburgh be able, though, to keep that momentum for an entire 18-week season now? If it's the same old Steelers like last season, to me it says no. Again, you can't start off that hot, though, and then play mediocre football over the course of the last several weeks of the season and kind of, limp their way in and hope you kind of get hot at the right time, though. But again, folks, Big Ben Roethlisberger says that the pay cut was, in fact, his idea to aid the Steelers and putting that money somewhere else. And Isaiah Young comes in to say that he agrees. I'm going to guess he agrees with either the pay cut or is it with the team announcers being able to travel with their teams again and go on the road for the baseball season. With that in mind, though, folks, some other news in football, but up north in the Canadian Football League, the longtime Edmonton Eskimos are no longer, as the Edmonton CFL franchise has changed their name to the Edmonton Elks. Announced on Tuesday, Edmonton dropped its longtime name, the Eskimos, last year after a similar decision was made by the NFL's Washington football team amid pressure on franchises to eliminate their racist or eliminate stereotypical names. It had been called the Edmonton football team up until the announcement, but the logo continues to feature the two E's, which of course were synonymous with the Edmonton football franchise. Elks was chosen of 7 potential names, including Evergreens, Evergold, Eclipse, Eagles, and Elements. When the Edmonton football team did announce last year that it was discontinuing its name, team president Chris Preston said it was the franchise's hope, though, to keep its double E logo and the green and gold colors. The decision also came following a review by the franchise after it had twice opted to maintain its current or maintain its old moniker. Founded all the way back in 1949, football team has won the Grey Cup 14 times, second most to the Toronto Argonauts, who've won 17 times in CFL history. The community-owned club's impressive history on the field includes a record of 5 straight championships from 1978 to 1982, having qualified for the postseason 34 straight seasons from 72 until 2005. Everybody shouldn't be surprised here. I think with the Washington football team that the domino effect is just now starting. Again, with the Indians in baseball, the Eskimos now in the CFL, should be no surprise for football fans perhaps coming out, though, as more time does in fact move on. But again, the CFL franchise drops Eskimos in favor of the Edmonton Elks starting for the 2021 Canadian Football League season. With that, folks, in mind, jumping ship over to the NBA, the LA Lakers absolutely plastered in this ball game as they, in fact, do play this game without Anthony Davis. The Suns have shined brightly and have taken a 3-2 lead, 115-85. The Suns absolutely obliterating the Lakers tonight, and they now take a 3-2 series lead. The Lakers, again, undone without Anthony Davis. LeBron James, 24 points, and no life preserver whatsoever. 4 points for Markieff Morris, 7 for Andre Drummond, and no points for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and no points either for Dennis. While the Suns, though, were absolutely scorching in this ball game, a 30-point piece for Devin Booker, who was running rampant and all over the place in the first quarter, and Mikal Bridges had 13 points, while Christian Payne added 16 off the bench, and as did Johnson, who threw in 11, and the Suns shot a staggering 45% from the field and were shooting at close to 60% from the field in the first half of this ball game. Folks, this should not be a surprise here that the Lakers were absolutely dismantled because of no Anthony Davis. And it might be time, folks, to put the Lakers to bed, even with them going back to LA in Game 6, because if Davis does not play again, the Lakers are absolutely, in my mind, done, especially if the Suns keep up this pace here. Now, again, could it translate, though, to another game? Who knows? But tonight, though, this was the Suns absolutely running the Lakers off the floor in a lackluster performance from LeBron James and that Laker ball club, again, getting blown out 115-85. And again, the Suns they could not be stopped, though, tonight in this ball game. And frankly, if you're the Lakers, without Anthony Davis, there's no way right now that you're going to be able to stop the Suns in Game 6, especially if Booker is going early, if Paul's going early, if all that's going on early, the Lakers are in deep trouble. And I knew it was an uphill climb, though, but my goodness, though, a colossal size loss for the Lakers, a 30-point defeat tonight, again, 115-85, and the Suns, again, now with that victory in the regular season showed why they only lost 9 games at home in the regular season. But without Anthony Davis, folks, this Lakers ball club, they're done. There is no way that I see that this ball club without AD, there's no way that the Lakers, in my mind, get over Game 6. Now, if Davis comes back, though, it might be a different story, though. But again, will Davis be on a minutes restriction? Will he have to, mainly only, stay down low and do stuff down in the paint? Will he be able to be as explosive? There's a lot of concern. There's a lot of red flags here, and I really don't see the Lakers having enough stamina, especially with them having to go through the play-in tournament. How much energy does this Lakers ball club have left? Where's that health bar at, like we're playing Mortal Kombat? Where is that health meter right now with their stamina? I think it's almost empty, because I think if there's no Davis on Thursday, the Lakers are going to bed. It's going to be over, and they're going to be done in 6 games, and the season will be over. But for the Suns, though, Devin Booker, stud performance, though, tonight, 30 points for D-Book tonight. And mainly, he was, and again, though, Devin Booker did what I told the Lakers to do over the course of the program on the night shift. I told the Lakers, you got to, just go down low. Go down low. And Devin Booker did that instead. He went down and had his way. And ones, floaters, jumpers, the 3-point shot. And now the Suns on the cusp now of knocking out the Lakers and having us crown a new champion for another somewhat of a reduced COVID-19 season. Again, but the Suns plastered the Lakers 115-85. The Suns over the Lake Show tonight from Phoenix Suns Arena in Phoenix, Arizona. James does write in, though, saying that CP3 hurts his shoulder again. Christy also says, I think AD not being a part of the Lakers during the series is proving to be very problematic. It's been that way, though, Christy, for the entire year, sadly. So it is what it is right now. Christian Ilton, good to see you, though, as well, CI. He says, Callan, do you believe if the Lakers don't win, even with the injuries, is it a failure of a season? Christian, before we go to break here, I'm going to say no. Reason I say it's not a failure, though, with all the expectations, 72-game season. Much like what everyone wants to say about last year and the bubble and this and that, though, I'm not calling last season, for one, I'm not really calling last season a success for the Lakers, and nor do I want to call this year a failure, because these weren't 2 full 82-game seasons. I don't want to put my stock with this Lakers ball club based off of, a 72-game reduced season this year and a very bizarre year last year. If you can get a full, if we get a full, obviously get a full season next year before we go to break here and get to the next couple of games here, Christian, I'm going to say it's not a failure this year. That may sound stupid to you out there, like, what, a Laker fan not saying it's a failure? I choose to be, I choose to look at things through a different set of eyes. I don't think that with what the Lakers had gone through this year, plus the condensed schedule, which also wasn't that much of a big deal, though, I don't see it a failure. Reboot and come back next season. I kind of feel like, though, that the Lakers should have done that, honestly, without LeBron and AD playing majority of the year, though. Wait till next year. Who cares about the repeat? I know that sounds stupid because, wait a minute. You don't want LeBron and AD, no. With the health, with the, unreal schedule, stuff like that, I really, truly, honestly, don't see it as a failure. James Gonzalez also says the Lakers are hoping that the sun doesn't set on them. I'm going to guess pun intended there, Mr. Gonzalez. James further adds on, LeBron got to score 50 plus, but he's winded as well. And also James says that Cameron Payne played very well. He's been great off the bench so far before we go to break here. But again, folks, the Suns rout the Lakers from Phoenix 115-85. Phoenix over the LA Lakers tonight from Phoenix Suns Arena down there in Phoenix, Arizona. With that, folks, a quick timeout. When we come back, 2 more NBA games and plenty more coverage here for the next half an hour here inside of a sports lounge. More to come momentarily. now that Phoenix has national was taking their licks, it's by far the Clippers. Though now, albeit without Kristaps Porzingis and that injury he suffered, though, get over the playoff hump. You're able to knock them. Oh my goodness, here we go again. And I think you need your best guy out there again. With Jazz upper brass for this because of COVID, covering up his eye after he's a home. That, guys, is the great 25 years. Finally, for one game. But Ja Morant is the truth. I am telling you, fellas. All right, folks, about half an hour left of showtime here. Back to the NBA scoreboard we go as the Brooklyn Nets have punched their ticket to round 2 to face the Milwaukee Bucks. 123-109, Brooklyn clobbering Boston from Barclays Center tonight in Brooklyn, New York. But it's not without trying, though. Jason Tatum, hats off to Tatum for trying to hold down the fort for the Celtics. 32-point effort for JT in the ballgame tonight. The Brooklyn Nets, though, again, another monstrous scoring night, though, for BKN. 34 for James Harden, 25 for Kyrie Irving, and 24 more for Kevin Durant, and 10 for Joe Harris, and also 10 off the bench as well from Brown for the Nets as the Nets move on to round 2 to face the Milwaukee Bucks. You know, folks, I got to give credit to Boston. Again, you know, you're talking about going in there against the buzzsaw in the Brooklyn Nets, though. And again, like I said, though, folks, on the night shift on Sunday, is how does a ball club out there try to stop this Brooklyn offense? Again, that starting five may, in fact, be the one who's destined to hoist Larry O'Brien this year. And I'll tell you what, folks, I do have to give some props, though, to the Celtics. You know, a team who, again, had to battle their way through their own playoff woes this year. And I think, the folks, that Jason Tatum, I know we don't give out moral victories or participation trophies, though, but Jason Tatum did all he could for the series, though. It's just a shame, though, that the Celtics didn't have, you know, Brown with them or didn't have anyone else around him or Kemba Walker. But sadly, though, folks, Jason Tatum, I think, did all he could. It just wasn't enough, though, for the Celtics to get to overcome, again, that very just, you know, unbelievably insane Brooklyn Nets offense. And again, that Brooklyn shot the ball well. Again, they shot the ball at 51.2% from the field today in this game. And that Brooklyn, I think, though, okay, there's one series down, though. Now, though, I think it's a little bit intriguing, folks, that now we get the Nets and the Bucks. Now, again, we have Brooklyn again in that very high-octane offense. And, of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, and the Bucks starting up shop, I believe, on Saturday. And while, folks, I've been very high on Milwaukee, I know I'm probably the only guy on the entire MI6 Sports Network family of hosts here who thoroughly wants to see Milwaukee win. And I'm still going to, and I still feel that way, though. But this will be probably a Herculean task, though, for a team like Milwaukee to try to knock off this, you know, behemoth of a ball club right now in the Brooklyn Nets, though. But, you know, I'm going to probably pull a Young here, pull an Isaiah Young, and probably but I'm going to stay with my guns. Don't say that the Bucks win this thing in 6 or 7. But we'll have to probably take them stealing at least one, if not both, games of the series coming up in Brooklyn. Because I think that it's going to have to be, they're going to have to at least get one there. And I think, though, that while, of course, it's mainly Giannis with the Bucks, though, again, like I've said, though, folks, I don't know if Brooklyn can keep this pace of scoring points going for a full series. And especially, I think, though, as James said, I think on Sunday, once you kind of get moving into the next round and the next round after, it's just like playing a video game. You know, you get through one, you know, you get through one level. Okay, now I have to get through the next, you know, 1 boss level, 2 boss levels, 3 boss levels. Like, it's going to get harder and harder and harder. So you got through one level, but now, of course, now you have Milwaukee again. Clean sweep for the Bucks over Miami. Bit of some downtime. That maybe hurts Milwaukee in game 1 of the series. I think it probably will, because again, when you have that time off, folks, it's hard to come back from that time off. And there's rust, there's this, there's that. And this probably, I think, benefits Brooklyn. They've been playing a bit. They're fresh. The Bucks have been kind of sitting around a little bit, though. Yeah, probably having practice, but again, no game action because they swept away their series. So Brooklyn, I think, though, again, this offense is scary. But again, can they continue, though, to keep producing this offense at these high watermarks of, 120, 130, 140, 150. And I think that probably doesn't happen against the Bucks. It probably does in people's minds, but I really don't think that Brooklyn will be able to get as much offense going or as much scoring against the Nets. I know, of course, that they got, Giannis down low, though, and guys like that, though. Brook Lopez, Giannis, and stuff like that, though. But I think, though, it's going to boil down, though, probably to three-point shooting. And that Milwaukee will have to probably make their threes and hope that they can get some misses and some rebounds. But honestly, I mean, I'm going to have to probably go the route of a Isaiah-type pick. Bucks in 6. That's my thought here with them clinching that series at home at Pfizer Forum. And I think, though, as well, maybe to get over that hump, though, maybe to perhaps change that narrative about Giannis in this organization. Milwaukee is building something great, though. Brooklyn built this overnight, though, but Milwaukee's been building this since they drafted Giannis years ago, though. I really am still high on Milwaukee. I'm going to stick with my guns here. Bucks in 6 is what I'm going to be going here at this rate, and James will go with the Nets in 6. Again, totally understandable, and I think as well, though, James, just my only concern, though, about Brooklyn, it's not about the egos, but my concern, though, is can you keep this high-octane offense going? 120 points, 130 points, 140 points per game. Can you keep that going, as you said, though, on Sunday, as that difficulty level keeps getting harder and harder and harder, as, in fact, this the playoffs go on, though. But we'll see how things go. But again, the Nets move on after beating Boston 123-109 from Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. Last game, folks, for the night from the NBA, a instant classic, the Denver Nuggets and Portland Trail Blazers, the series that I said was the more intriguing series in the NBA's Western Conference. The Nuggets pull out a heart-stopping finish, 147-140. Denver works they work double overtime to knock off the Blazers, despite a 55-point performance from Damian Lillard. It is all gone by the wayside as the Nuggets pull it out, thanks to 38 points from Nikola Jokic and 26 points from Michael Porter Jr. and 18 points from Austin Rivers and 28 points as well off the bench for the Nuggets from Monte Morris, as the Nuggets now go up 3-2 after another instant classic ball game. 147-140. Denver holds off Portland in double OT from Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado tonight. Folks, like I said, though, I know I picked Portland because of Damian Lillard, though. Dame Dollar shows again that you can't bury Portland because he's got that, he's got that clutch gene. He's had it unlocked his whole career, though, and that Portland is never out of a ball game as long as Damian Lillard is shooting the ball well. And again, for him, 55 points, 12 for 17 from beyond the arc. Holy cow. 17 of 24. And oh, by the way, 52 minutes played, a mile above sea level. That's what we also forget here, folks, is that this game was played in Denver, and Dame played nearly an hour of game time at the elevation of 5,286 feet above sea level at Ball Arena. But again, though, folks, Denver, I think, won this game mainly because they took the Callan McClurg approach and they fed the big guy inside. They didn't settle for the jump shots or for the bad shots or for the threes, though. Yeah, they did. In fact, they shot, though, just over 45% from the 3-point line, though. But they pounded the ball inside. And again, we had a great battle again between Jusuf Nurkic and Nikola Jokic. 38 for Jokic and 13 for Nurkic in this ball game. But again, folks, like I said, though, Portland, I think, though, can at least grab one more game of going back home, though. But again, if you're a basketball fan, you can never count out the Blazers because of Damian Lillard. And I know that people, I thoroughly love Lillard watching him play because he keeps you intrigued to watch because, okay, what's he going to do this time? What's he going to do this time? And with how many clutch shots that he's hit in his career, I mean, I want to see Portland just, keep going. Like I said, though, folks, this is easily the best and most competitive series right now in the NBA's Western Conference by leaps and bounds of the imagination because, again, two great teams. And again, and having the Dame Dollar effect on standby, I mean, that is beyond insane at this rate. Some thoughts real quick here. Christian wants to double the ante. Bucks in 4. I'll take Milwaukee in general, but Bucks in 4. I mean, Christian, okay. I mean, that's them winning both games in Brooklyn. Them winning both games at the 4-1 form, I believe is what they call it, as well at Pfizer form in Milwaukee. James also says Portland should easily be leading the series, but that's why you play the games. And Christy Wilson says never count out the Blazers. Thank you, K-Dub, for that. Because again, like I said, though, can't count out Damian Lillard, and again, you can't count out that ball club in the Portland Trailblazers. With that, folks, in the NHL, death, taxes, and the Toronto Maple Leafs once again exiting in the first round of the postseason. The Toronto Maple Leafs, as of yesterday, folks, are once again flopped in the postseason again, as the Leafs blew a 3-1 lead and dropped a 3-1 game in Game 7 to the longtime rival Montreal Canadiens on Monday on home ice in their first playoff meeting between the rivals in 42 seasons. Leafs head coach Sheldon Keefe said it's really hard to put into words. We're obviously devastated, disappointed. We felt we were capable of a lot more, not just tonight, but in the whole series, close quote. Folks, the numbers are staggering. The Maple Leafs haven't won a playoff series since 2004 and have lost 8 straight, and they have 8 straight losses in series clinching games, and they've lost a winner-take-all game in 4 consecutive postseasons. They've lost 3 straight Game 7s and a Game 5 in the qualifying round against the Columbus Blue Jackets last season. More importantly, the Leafs remain without a Stanley Cup since 1967. The Leafs were considered to be a legitimate contender for the Cup this season after finishing with 77 points atop the North Division, 18 more than Montreal, the heavy underdog that ended their season on Monday night. Toronto D-man Morgan Riley said the expectation within the room was high. The goals are higher than what we achieved this year. It makes the disappointment that much worse. We felt it. We realized we let the opportunity slip away. That's unacceptable by our standards, and that makes the loss a lot worse than anything we've had to deal with before, close quote. You know, folks, the 3-1 jokes are usually for the NBA. But, folks, Stephen A. Smith on his program on ESPN Plus said it right, sadly, tonight. The Maple Leafs are the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL. You know, here's a team who every year believes, you know, this is our year for the Stanley Cup championship. And the Leafs have just, like the story said, though, from ESPN.com, flop flat on their face. If it's not the Leafs flopping, it's the Canadiens flopping. And all the props go to the Canadiens who are down and out. And fans wanted to bury Carey Price, the goalie, earlier in the series, though. And Carey Price went out there and shut down this high-octane, lethal offense with Mitch Marner and William Nylander and Austin Matthews. And here the Leafs just, again, can't get the job done in a Game 7. And I think folks feel bad for Joe Thornton. You know, one of the good guys out there in the NHL who's played with Boston. He's played with the Sharks, played with the Leafs. And he solely goes to the Leafs just to get a chance to win a championship. And the poor guy's out in Game 7. I do think, though, folks, that sadly for the Leafs, though, I don't want to put this whole burden on William Nylander, on Austin Matthews. Let's also forget, though, this may be an excuse, but I don't care. They had to play this whole series, virtually this entire series, without John Tavares. John Tavares was kneed in the back of the head by Corey Perry in a freak accident in Game 1. It was a freak collision that happened, and Tavares had to be stretchered off the ice. That right there, sadly for me, may have been what happened, or where, in fact, like the team morale kind of dropped. Seeing the team captain get hurt, stretchered off the ice, and stuff like that. And I don't know, though, about if that play right there, if that doesn't happen, do the Leafs close out the series? Do they at least, win the game and move on? I mean, it's hard to kind of fathom, or at least say, though, that it would be like an issue like that. But I think sometimes, though, folks, that there's usually a play, though. This is talked a lot about in baseball. There's usually a play but saves a no-hitter or a perfect game. There was also a play that usually ruins that moment. For me, it seems like, though, that the Maple Leafs team morale, despite going up 3-1, though, a part of that team morale kind of was lost because of Tavares going down with that injury. And we hope and pray for the best for the team captain. But again, quote unquote, zero excuses as the Leafs cap first round collapse as they were beat on Monday by the Canadiens 3-1 after blowing a 3-1 lead. And the Montreal Canadiens are moving on to round two to face the Winnipeg Jets in the second round of the NHL's Stanley Cup playoffs. James writes in to say the Maple Leafs still haven't won it all since 64, I believe. 67 was the last time they have not, was when they last won the Stanley Cup. Christian writes in, it wasn't going to matter who came out of the Canadian division. They are going to get crushed. So great to see the Leafs earn their golf clubs early. Christian, is Colorado the favorite? I think they really are, honestly, at this rate. We'll get to more about that in just a moment. And Christy says, sorry, Cal and Stephen A., but the Leafs did not win a title since 67. The Cowboys have not won since 95, so the comparison is very unfair, in my opinion. Your beef is with Stephen A., not with me. I just reiterate what he said, though. But I believe it's a fair comparison, though, in a way. Because, here, Christy, these teams are like known as being the dynasties of their sports. And not you, Christy, but you know how Cowboy fans are. Oh, my gosh, this is the year. How about them Cowboys? The Leafs are the same exact way, sadly. Every year. Oh, yeah, this is the year. We got Matthews. We got this guy. Yeah. And they always find a way to bomb out in year one. So I think it's a fair comparison on a level. But I still think, though, that in my mind, though, it's more of a comparison, I think, that's maybe justified. But I think, though, that's Stephen A.'s world for you. So, do what you want to do with that as well. Also, folks, the other news I wanted to get to in the NHL tonight here, involving the Avalanche in their game two, coming up on Wednesday. But a very sketchy situation broke out, though, in the first game between the Knights and the Avalanche. But Vegas Golden Knights forward Ryan Reeves has been popped and suspended 2 games for roughing and unsportsmanlike conduct against Ryan Graves of the Avalanche. The incident occurred during the 7-1 victory for Colorado in Game 1 of their second-round series on Sunday and also prompted a hearing from the league's player safety department on Monday. Reeves drew a match penalty for attempting to injure an opponent, which was Ryan Graves at 8:04 of the period, in a skirmish-filled game. Prior to the announcement of the suspension, Vegas' head coach Peter DeBoer, in his off-day media availability, stuck up for Ryan Reeves, who avoided punishment for a hit from behind in Game 7 in their victory over the Wild when he sent Ryan Sutter's face into the goalpost. The Avalanche, though, were not thrilled with the play on Graves, who was thrown to the ice as his helmet rolled away. Graves stayed down as trainers tended to him while skirmishes were going on around him. Avalanche head coach Jared Bednar said that Graves is down in a vulnerable position and he just stays on top of him and obviously hits him. So I didn't like the play, but DeBoer knows this player. I guess I don't think that Reeves is out there trying to injure people on purpose. He's just got a ruggedness to his game. In that situation, in the game, I just didn't like it that much. Close quote. Same went though for Avalanche captain Gabriel Landeskog, who quipped after Sunday's rout by saying that Reeves is on a mission to hurt somebody in the third, and that's what he gets, or what he goes out and he does. Close quote. The Knights weren't pleased earlier with a chest-high hit by Graves delivered on center Matthias Janmark near the boards in the second period, and Janmark did not return him. DeBoer had no update on Monday. The lopsided affair, though, of Game 1 was a surprise, given that the two teams were so evenly matched in the regular season. They tied for the most points in the league, but the Avalanche earned the President's Trophy, along with home ice advantage throughout the postseason by virtue of a tiebreaker for having the most regulation victories. Fatigue, though, may have been a factor. The Golden Knights had 1 day off following a grueling first-round matchup with Minnesota, while the Avalanche had nearly a week off after a first-round sweep of the St. Louis Blues. Folks, I know that people mainly watch hockey because of the fighting nature, though. But, folks, in perspective here, Ryan Reeves got 9 minutes in penalties tacked on to his team for his stupid play. And I get, though, that enforcers are kind of in a way like pitchers throwing complete games, that they're slowly dying a slow death, though. But Ryan Reeves, I like the guy a bit. But this sort of stuff, though, is what the NHL is trying to crack down on, is when you hear about the intent to injure. And The worst part about that whole thing, though, is that this was, going on in a vulnerable situation with Ryan Graves laying on the ice, though, and you have all these other clusters of fights breaking out, literally right on top of Reeves and Graves, kind of, doing their, doing their thing basically at this rate. But I do think, though, that the suspension's got to be longer. I think that especially if there's an intent to injure, it's got to be more than 2 games. I know that a player for the Avalanche, I believe, got an 8-game suspension for a cross-check. Why is there a double standard when it comes to high sticks, cross-checks, or even a situation like this, though? Why is there a double standard between, one guy getting an 8-game suspension for a cross-check, but a guy who literally went out there and tried to injure somebody and racked up 9 minutes in penalties? Why 2 games? Where's the double standard? Why is there not a set rule or set rules in place that go by the severity of the incident? Cross-checking should be, I look at it this way. Cross-checking should be at least 2 games, or there needs to be set number of games of suspension for certain ruthless and over-aggressive actions, like cross-checking, high sticking, spearing, instigation, and match penalties have to also be dealt with in a very different way, though, as well, though. But I think that the suspension for me is not enough. It should be the remainder of the round, honestly, because I think, though, the last thing that you want to see happen here, folks, I know it's the postseason, but the last thing that you want to see happen, though, is more guys get hurt, more guys start, yapping, more guys start throwing down, more, brawls start breaking out. I know it's the postseason, folks. Believe me, I know it's the postseason. But you don't want to see more guys on both these clubs. Both these teams are so evenly matched, as it was said, though, in the article via ESPN.com. But you don't want it, though, to where the star players, like a Mark Stone, like a Max Pacioretty, a Shea Theodore, a Landeskog, a McKinnon, a Ratinen, you don't want to see these star guys get hurt by a Ryan Reeves or a tough guy for Colorado, where it gets, blown out of proportion and more stuff hits the fan. But again, folks, give us your thoughts as time goes on here at this rate. Christy Feather chimes in. She says, Callan, I tend to have low expectations for the Cowboys anyway, because I just don't hope to get my hopes up at this rate. Christian says, Cal, the Avs are good, though, but still likes Tampa Bay, who is now up 2-0 on Carolina after squeaking one out at PNC Arena tonight. And Christy also says, why Vegas? Why? Facepalm emoji. But again, folks, Ryan Reeves of the Golden Knights of the NHL, again, popped for a 2-game suspension following his actions of intent to injure Ryan Graves in Game 1, which also included the Knights having 9 minutes of penalty time to kill and a match penalty also assessed on that play as well to Ryan Reeves in that process at this rate. With that, folks, we have time for one final story. It's now time for tonight's Last Call.
Last Call.
Last call time here, folks. That final story for the night is actually from the WNBA today, and also some very great news involving the National Basketball Association, and that is the Seattle Storm have named a new head coach after a very interesting, or not interesting, but a very sudden retirement of longtime women's basketball head coach Dan Hughes. But Noelle Quinn, a longtime WNBA player, and is now taking over the helm of the Seattle Storm, as Noelle has become the first black head coach in Storm history, and takes over again for Dan Hughes, who again retired during the course of the season. She told reporters on Monday that she is super honored to take over the defending WNBA champions head coaching position, who have the league's best record right now of 5-1 after Dan Hughes announced his retirement on Sunday. Just 3 years ago, Quinn played for the Storm at one battalion. She retired following a 12-year career to join the coaching staff in 2019, and quickly demonstrated to the organization the potential to become the team's head coach. Legendary Storm point guard Sue Bird, a 4-time champ who played with Quinn for parts of 4 years, described Noelle as more than ready to take over the new role. Quinn is also breaking ground as the first black coach in the Storm franchise history and third former player to serve as a team's head coach, joining Sandy Brondello in Phoenix and Vicki Johnson in Dallas. To Quinn, who grew up watching the league as a season ticket holder for the LA Sparks, that representation is crucial in her mind. Noelle was asked about that. She said, it's one thing to have goals, but it's another to see someone who looks like you doing what you aspire to do. I don't take this role lightly. I understand I have an ability and responsibility to be a role model in that way, and I welcome it. I think it's more important for young black girls to see women of color, black women in leadership roles, because you understand you can be more than just a basketball player. You can be a coach, a GM. You can even own a team. Close quote. As is the case right now with Renee Montgomery, who's now the principal owner right now of the Atlanta Dream. Folks, I thoroughly have enjoyed Noelle Quinn and watching her career. When she played in LA and again playing in Seattle, and was at the back end of her career, but was always great though, and always delivered in big situations, or would be that floor general and do stuff like that though. And I think though, folks, that the WNBA teams this year have done a phenomenal job though for players who may have retired, like for example Simone Augustus. They have brought them on board though as the team's head coaches, or as coaches, I should say. And that, folks, bringing that experience, though, of like a Simone Augustus or a Noelle Quinn into the fray is, you can't put a price tag on having a player who was on the floor literally last season or recently and put that on the bench and it works right away. I know the Sparks tried that when they canned Carol Ross in 2015, I believe, and had Penny Toller, the former GM, become the head coach for a bit. It kind of gives you a different perspective, though, about how, in fact, things do, in fact, go. And I do, in fact, know that Noelle Quinn, especially with her retiring pretty recently, that experience can be very, very vital for a team like the Storm, though. Again, Sue Bird, Breanna Stewart, though, again, they're so loaded, probably, though, again, going for another WNBA title this upcoming season. But again, congratulations to Noelle Quinn, again, named the new head coach of the Seattle Storm. As of Sunday, again, after Dan Hughes announcing his immediate retirement from coaching. Christy Wilson jumps in to say, I hope she does well as the coach of the Storm. I wish her all the best. He did, in fact, win tonight over Indiana handily from the Angel of the Winds arena in Everett, Washington. With that, folks, we'll now step away and head on into tonight's Final Thought. Wrapping things up here, folks, on this first episode of the Sports Lounge, back after our hiatus break. Again, folks, thanks for hanging out here for the last hour and a half. A major thank you to Isaiah Leung, Christy Wilson, Casey King, James Gonzalez, Adam Barber, and Christian Ilton for all you guys tuning in tonight. Again, we'll do this all over again next Tuesday. But again, folks, as a reminder, Haley Skamura, from the USA Women's National Hockey Team, will join the Sports Lounge in 2 weeks' time on June 15th at 8 o'clock p.m. right here inside of the MI6 Sports Network. Should be a great interview talking to Haley, getting her thoughts about Team USA, getting her thoughts about the upcoming IIHF World Championship Tournament being held in August. Also talk about her dad, Peter Skamura, playing for the Capitals way back in the day, and also talk about how, in fact, that the PWHPA, the Pro Women's Hockey Players Association, is trying their best to get a unified league that will pay the players livable wages and salary. We'll get all that from Haley, folks, in 2 weeks' time again. So again, tell your friends, and if you're a hockey fan, you're a casual hockey fan, or if you're a casual sports fan, want to hear some more about women in sports, this is your place to come again here. But once more, everybody, Haley Skamura, USA Women's National Hockey Team, joining us 2 weeks' time on June 15th at 8 o'clock Pacific time right here inside of the MI6 Sports Network. But again, folks, a major shout-out and thanks again to all you folks for watching us here tonight. With that in mind, everybody, we'll see you back here again next Tuesday, as in fact we come back here for the Sports Lounge again next Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the evening, folks. But Sally, we are officially closed until next week, folks. Till then, have a good night and bye-bye.